Welcome to Module 4, AI Ethics and Governance Readiness. We'll begin Module 4 with one simple reality. Artificial intelligence is no longer theoretical in public service. It's already influencing how organizations analyze data, prioritize work, detect threats, and sometimes even recommend decisions. So that brings us to a central question for today's session. How do we govern systems that influence outcomes? Because the moment technology begins shaping decisions that affect people, the stakes change. This isn't just a technical issue anymore. It becomes ethical and governance
Welcome to
responsibility.
Module
And
2,
that's
the Human
exactly why
Conscience
this module
Clause.
exists. House
This is
Bill
the point in
96
the
was
program where
written with a
compliance
clear
stops
principle
feeling
in
like
mind.
paperwork and starts
Technology
feeling
can
like real
assist
life.
decisions, but
Because
accountability
Ohio House
always
Bill
remains human.
96
What does
isn't
that
just about
mean?
what systems do.
AI
It's
systems
also
must be
about what people
explainable.
do when the
The data
policy
must
doesn't
be
spell everything
trustworthy.
out.
Their outputs must
So
be
today isn't
reviewable.
about
And the
memorizing
decisions
rules.
they influence must
It's about
always have human
recognizing this.
oversight.
You're part of the
So today we're going to
decision-making safety
explore how that
system.
works in practice.
And yes,
Not
your
from a software
conscience is
perspective. We're
officially
not going
in
to
the
train
loop.
you on how to prompt
If you
AI
didn't know
today.
that,
And even if
congratulations.
you don't
You've
use
been
AI in
promoted
your
by your own
organization
nervous system.
today, you probably actually do, even if you do simple Google searching, but officially having a piece of software that you use that's approved in your organization, you're going to be soon, and we want to get you ready for that. Because this is really about governance, ethics, and compliance perspective. The question isn't what can AI do? The real question is how do we ensure that AI is serving the public responsibly? And that's what Module 4 is about. So before we dive deeper, we'll take a look at what we're trying to accomplish in this session. Because AI governance, just like cybersecurity governance, starts with a clarity of purpose. Before we dive into AI itself, let's ground this session in what we're trying to actually accomplish. Up to this point in the series, we've talked a lot about human responsibility and evidence of integrity. But now we're adding a new layer. What happens when systems start making recommendations or influencing decisions? That's where AI governance enters the conversation. And the important thing to understand is this. AI doesn't remove responsibility, it actually increases it. Because when a system influences a decision that affects the public, the question everybody's going to ask is simple. Who's accountable for that decision? That's the thread running through today's objectives. So how does AI impact civic trust and accountability? We'll talk about that. AI can be incredibly powerful. It can analyze patterns faster than humans. It can help prioritize cases. It can surface risks we might otherwise miss. But here's the challenge. When a system influences a decision, whether it's resource allocation, risk scoring, or recommendations, people still want transparency. They expect it. Citizens are going to want to know, why was this decision made? What data influenced it? Was it fair? And if we can't explain those things clearly, trust erodes very quickly. So today we're going to explore a simple idea. Technology may assist decisions, but humans remain accountable for them. That's where governance becomes essential. So to clarify the intent of House Bill 96 when it comes to managing AI systems, we'll connect it back. House Bill 96 wasn't written specifically about artificial intelligence, but the principles it establishes apply perfectly to AI governance. So House Bill 96 is going to emphasize documented oversight, accountable leadership, verifiable decision trails. Those same principles are exactly what responsible AI systems require. You're going to need policies and training around how you use AI tools when you start bringing them online in the future, if you're not already doing it. And so it's all new, right? But if an AI tool influences a decision, we still have to answer three basic questions. Who approved the system? And I'm talking about the AI tool itself. How's it monitored? Where's the evidence oversight? So when you are using it to make decisions or analyze data, you need to log that as part of the public trust and public record. That evidence is ultimately going to live in the same place everything else in this series does, the compliance evidence playbook. So today we'll talk about how AI decisions still feed into the same compliance chain that you've been learning about. So remember, responsible AI isn't just about algorithms, it's about governance. So I'll ask everyone, think about it. How many of you already interact with some kind of an AI tool? Or do you, who's watching the video? Do you use it at work or at home? It's already part of our environment, whether you know it or not. If you Google search, if you use text to speech, if you use any technology today, just about, you're already using it. Whether you are using ChatGPT or Copilot is different, but AI is all around us. It's like we woke up and it was It was entrenched. So the real question isn't whether we're using it, because just about everybody is, whether you realize it or not. It's how do we govern it responsibly? So we're going to explore something new, not just how systems work, but how we remain accountable when systems start helping make decisions. Because in the end, transparency is what keeps technology aligned with public trust. And that's exactly what responsible AI governance is about. So before we go deeper into AI governance, we need to talk about something that often hides in plain sight, and that's bias. Because when people hear the word bias, they're usually thinking about ethics, fairness, or social issues. And that's absolutely part of it. But in the context of AI and public service, bias is also an operational risk. If the data going into an AI system is incomplete, skewed, or historically imbalanced, the system can unintentionally amplify those problems. And it always will, because it's based on bad data in this case. So when that happens in government systems, the consequences aren't theoretical. They can affect who receives services, who gets flagged for review, or how decisions are prioritized. We've had a recent example where we were doing traffic pattern analysis and crash statistics. If that data is wrong, you might change roads or do different things at intersections, and that can become a problem. So bias isn't just a technical glitch, it can become a public trust issue very quickly. And that's why frameworks exist, things like NIST AI risk management frameworks. They're trying to emphasize fairness as a design principle. So fairness in this context means asking questions like, is the training data representative? Are the outcomes consistent across different groups? Can we detect and correct bias if it appears? You have to know the data you're working with to see if it doesn't make sense when it comes out of an AI analysis. In other words, fairness isn't something we hope for after deployment. It's something you have to test for and govern. And this brings us to the third objective on the slide, data integrity. Because AI systems don't invent reality. They reflect the data we give them, and that's a very important thought. If that data is flawed, outdated, incomplete, or poorly documented, the system may produce results that look precise but are fundamentally misleading. And when those results affect public programs or public decisions, the impact can ripple far beyond the technology itself. So as we move through this module, keep this idea in mind. AI doesn't remove human responsibility. It actually increases it, because now we're not just governing decisions made by people, we're governing systems that help shape those decisions. And that means the integrity of our data and the fairness of our models becomes part of the ethical responsibility as public servants. Now we're going to introduce a simple framework that helps organizations govern AI responsibly. Because the challenge with AI governance isn't just understanding the technology, it's creating a structured way to think about ethical decisions before problems occur. And that's where this 5-step cycle comes in. Assess, align, audit, adapt, and empathize. Think of it as a governance loop that keeps AI systems accountable over time, and I'll walk through it briefly. We'll put it in plain language. Assess. First, assessing the system. What data is the system using? What risks might exist in that data? And what decisions might this system influence? This aligns closely with NIST's identity function, understanding the environment and the risks before you even deploy it. Aligning it. So you're aligning the systems with your policies and ethics. This is where House Bill 96 government expectations come in. You're asking, does this system align with agency policies? Are oversight responsibilities clearly defined? And is the decision process transparent? Alignment ensures technology reflects organizational values, not just technical capability. Audit. The third is auditing. So this is where everything we discussed about compliance evidence playbook comes back. You should be able to answer, what decisions did the system influence? What evidence shows the systems behave as intended? And are the outcomes consistent and explainable? If you can't document it, you can't govern it. And adapt. Fourth is adapt. AI systems aren't static. Data changes, conditions change, new risks appear, new capabilities come online. So governance requires continuous adjustment, reviewing outcomes and correcting problems before they grow. And empathize. What does that mean? Finally, the steps that most frameworks forget. Empathize. Ask a simple but powerful question. How might this system affect the people it serves? Because public sector AI governance isn't just about efficiency, it's about fairness, transparency, and dignity. So we'll do a quick exercise. Imagine an AI system is designed to prioritize which community infrastructure project receives funding. This is a common AI use case. The system's going to use historical data from the past 20 years to decide which neighborhoods have received the most requests. Here's a question for you. What could go wrong with that data? Think about like maybe some neighborhoods historically reported fewer issues, or older records may be incomplete, or past decisions may reflect outdated priorities. And that's exactly what we're talking about. The systems may look objective. If the historical data reflects past inadequacies or inequities, the system may unintentionally repeat them. That's why ethical governance requires human oversight and critical thinking. You got to be able to apply the human common sense test to the data. And yeah, AI can analyze patterns. That's great, but it's still up to us to ask whether those patterns reflect reality or history's blind spots. So the purpose of this 5-step cycle is simple. It's giving organizations a responsible and repeatable way to question AI systems before that trust is compromised. Because responsible AI governance isn't about avoiding technology, it's about making sure technology serves the public fairly, transparently, and responsibly. Transparency is the anchor of ethical AI governance. Under House Bill 96, if a system uses AI or automation of any kind, we should be able to show clearly and calmly what the tool does, who oversees it, and how results are verified. That evidence lives in your compliance evidence playbook. And here's a quick example to make it real. One Ohio township discovered that their AI-based ticketing system wasn't logging citizen appeals correctly. Now, they could have tried to downplay it, but they did the smart, more ethical thing. They documented the flaw, fixed the process, and added a case study to their CEP. And that's the twist. That one moment of transparency became their strongest audit evidence, not because the system was perfect, none are, but because the agency proved it could see, correct, and own the truth. So here's the message I want you to take away here. The CEP isn't just paperwork. It's the memory of organizational integrity, as I've touched on. So if an auditor asks tomorrow, show me how this AI tool is overseen and verified, you want to have a clean trail, not a scavenger hunt. So this is another real world example that's important when AI learns the wrong lesson. I'll give you a real example of how hidden bias can show up in AI systems. A few years ago, a large organization built an AI system to help screen job applicants. The goal was efficiency. The system analyzed thousands of past hiring decisions and tried to predict which candidates were most likely to succeed. This is a common AI use case as well. And at first, the system looked incredibly accurate, but after some testing, they discovered something troubling. The system had learned to downgrade resumes that included indicators associated with women. For example, resumes that mentioned things like women's professional groups or certain college activities, wording patterns more common in female applicants. The system wasn't programmed to discriminate. It simply learned from historical data that it was trained on, and because the historical data reflected years of past hiring patterns, the AI quietly reflected those patterns and replicated them. The organization had to eventually shut the system down, not because the technology failed, but because the data had hidden biases that it carried forward. And this is a very cautionary and important tale. So the governance lesson here is and this is really something I want to land hard here. AI didn't create the bias. It reveals and sometimes amplifies the bias that was already present in the data, which means responsible AI governance requires something technology alone cannot provide: human judgment. And I know AI systems are already really good and they're going to continue to get better, but at the end of the day, we still have to rely on human judgment, which isn't perfect either, but it's better than the AI. So that's why frameworks like NIST, AI, RMF emphasizes fairness testing and oversight, and why the compliance evidence playbook becomes essential. Because ethical governance requires us to document what systems we deploy, what data they rely on, and how we monitor outcomes over time. So the real challenge isn't just building AI systems, it's building AI systems that deserve public trust. And that requires governance that's intentional, transparent, and continuously renewed and reviewed. And when that brings us to the next part. So let's talk about something that becomes critically important once AI enters government systems. Where does automation stop and where does human responsibility begin? House Bill 96 makes something very clear. Technology can assist decision making, but it cannot replace accountability. You can't blame the AI. That's where the concept of human in the loop oversight comes in. Human in the loop means that when an automated system recommends an action, whether it's flagging fraud, prioritizing cases, or allocating resources, a person must still review and validate the decision before it becomes a policy or action. Because algorithms are really good at detecting patterns, but they cannot understand context, fairness, or civic responsibility. That responsibility still belongs to people. So human in the loop under House Bill 96 means that agencies must ensure that automated systems are supervised, documented, and reviewable. That means someone must be able to answer these three questions: who approved the system, who reviews its outputs, and who's accountable if the decision is wrong. If those answers aren't clear, the governance model is incomplete. Let's talk about the limits of automation. It's powerful, it can analyze large data sets, it can detect anomalies faster than humans, and it can make recommendations instantly, but it has blind spots. AI systems reflect the data they were trained on, the assumptions that were built into them, and the objectives defined by their designers. And guess what? We don't have visibility into those. So when automation operates without oversight, small errors can become systemic mistakes. That's why governance frameworks include NIST AI Risk Management Framework, and this is important. It emphasizes human review as critical decision points. That's what that means. What does the NIST AI Risk Management Framework say? A human has to review it. Automation should support decisions. It should never silently replace them. Think about that. Ethical leadership and AI oversight. So this isn't just a technical issue, it's a leadership issue. Ethical AI oversight means leaders are willing to ask questions like, do we understand how this system reaches its conclusions? Can we explain those decisions to the public? And are we prepared to intervene when the system gets something wrong? Because the public trust doesn't depend on how advanced our technology is. It depends on whether someone's responsible for the outcome. And I'll share this. Never accept the first answer your AI gives you. Say, that's good, but give me something better. And we'll get into that when we get into specific training. But don't ever accept the first answer. So if you are thinking about this from your personal perspective, and maybe you use AI in your personal world, would you trust AI systems to make decisions that affect your benefits, your license, or your legal status with no human review? Exactly. Most people are comfortable with AI assistance, but not letting AI make the decision. They want and expect human accountability. And the expectation is exactly what House Bill 96 and modern governance frameworks are designed to protect. So the real question isn't, can AI make decisions? The real question is, how do we ensure that every automated decision has a responsible human behind it? Because in ethical governance, automation may inform decisions, but accountability always remains human. So let's bring this module together. What we cover today isn't just about artificial intelligence, it's about responsibility in the age of intelligent systems. We walk through 5 key ideas. First, governance roles. AI doesn't remove accountability, it clarifies it. Every system recommendation still traces back to a human decision authority. The second is bias awareness. Data carries history with it. If we don't question the inputs, we risk automating yesterday's inequities into tomorrow's decisions. Third, documentation standards. Just like we saw in earlier modules, integrity lives in the evidence. If an AI system influences a decision, the CEP captures the why, the how, and the oversight behind it. Fourth, the human oversight. Automation can assist judgment, but it should never replace it. Under House Bill 96, a human remains accountable for the outcome. And fifth, ethical adaptation. AI systems evolve. That means governance must evolve too, reviewing, adjusting, and learning as systems change. And we recommend this on a 90-day basis because these software systems are being updated every single day. It's crazy. So the message of this module is simple. House Bill 96 doesn't fear AI, it frames it. NIST gives us the structure, the CEP gives us the evidence, and ethical leadership gives the system its legitimacy. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is visibility, responsibility, and trust. Because when the public asks who made the decision, we should always be able to answer a responsible human supported by technology. And I'll leave you with this one final thought. AI can accelerate efficiency, but only ethics can sustain trust. Thank you for your time today and for the thoughtful work you bring to this space. AI governance can sound technical, but at its core, it's about something very human, and that's stewardship. Every time you question a data set, review an automated recommendation, or document an AI influenced decision in your compliance evidence playbook, you're doing something bigger than compliance. You're protecting public confidence in technology itself, and that matters because citizens may never see the code behind the AI system, but they will always experience its outcomes. And the integrity of those outcomes depends on the people who oversee them. So thank you for the care, judgment, and professionalism you bring to this work. So next, we're going to move from governance to capability. In Module 5, AI and Copilot Productivity Enablement, we're going to explore how AI tools can responsibly enhance daily work, how to use AI assistants like Copilots effectively. And again, this isn't going to be hands-on training, but it's going to be talking about capabilities. So as you plan for this inside your organization, you'll know what the capabilities are. So you'll also learn how to maintain documentation discipline while using AI. This is very important. And how to balance productivity gains with governance safeguards. Because the future of public service isn't just about controlling AI, it's about using it wisely. Thank you. See you in Module 5.